Another individual was known by Ibn Arabi. He was a Spanish Sufi who became very popular of the 12th century, 13th century. He, in his writings and teachings, promoted the idea that everything was Allah and Allah was everything. Because when you say Allah is everywhere, then you go inside of every atom, inside of every neutron and proton and electron and quark or whatever, individual particles, Allah is there. So in the end, what exists but Allah? Everything is Allah, and Allah is everything. And this is known as monism. In English, they refer to it philosophically as monism. Everything is Allah, and Allah is everything. Now this belief, in some of his writings, he told his people, why are you worshipping someone beyond you, God who is beyond you? God is in you and God is in me. You don't need to worship any God beyond yourself. Worship yourself. Right? This is clear deviation. Some people say, to say that Allah is above his creation is to put him in a place. This is one of the arguments. They say it's to put him in a place inside of the four dimensions of height, width, depth, so on and so. They're putting him in a location to say he's above. Well, we say no, it is not. To say he is everywhere is to put him in a place. Because you've put him inside of his creation. That is putting him in a place. When we say he is beyond his creation, we're not putting him in a location, because location came into existence with creation. Allah is where he was before he created. He's in the same place. Not bound by time, space, etc., etc. He's in the same place. He's beyond his creation. And when you go up in the creation, through the seven heavens, you end up with the highest level of the seven heavens. After that comes what? The kursi, the footstool, which is over everything. Wasi'a kursi was samawati wal ard. His footstool encompasses the universe. And beyond that, above it, and the universe in relationship to the footstool is like a brass ring thrown in the middle of the desert. The desert being like the footstool, and the whole of creation, the whole universe, which is expanding and all these other things, is like that brass ring in the middle of a desert. And the kursi, in relationship to the arsh or the throne of Allah, is like the brass ring thrown in the middle of the desert. So what do you think we are like in relationship to the kursi? This is what Prophet ﷺ said, authentic narration describing the creation. And Allah, and that is the end of creation. The arsh, that is the end of creation. What is beyond the arsh? Allah. Not inside of his creation, but beyond the creation. So we don't have to, as he said, have the idea that Allah is behind some planet, etc., etc. No. Allah controls everything in the universe without having to be inside of it. You see, their idea is to make Allah like us. If you want to control things, you have to be inside. You have to be on the spot. But we, in our own way, look at the ability to do things by remote control as being advancements of technology. When we send a Mars explorer to Mars, and it gets down over there, and we're here manipulating some things, sending the signals, and the Mars lander comes out and it rolls around, picks up some Earth, and does all this kind of stuff. We consider this an advancement in technology. We don't have to be on Mars to do that. So hey, if we can accept that as advancement, surely Allah is beyond that. Surely Allah is beyond that. He doesn't have to be inside of His creation to control it. Now, if one looks at proofs, this is just some logical reasoning to deal with some of the arguments, reasoned arguments that they make. But if we go to human nature, and we want to determine, because we're saying that belief in Allah as He is actually natural. It agrees with the basic nature with which people were created. If we want to understand the natural understanding, we need to go to the child. The little child, 5 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old. We ask that child, where is Allah? And of course his parents have indoctrinated him that Allah is everywhere. So he says, Allah is everywhere. And then you ask the child, is Allah in filth and places of filth? What is the child going to say? No. You can't believe Allah is in filth. No. He'll reject that. The child, she will reject that right off. Naturally, they reject the idea that the creator of this universe is within filth of this world that we consider nasty, we're flushing it away or whatever we're doing with it. And the child will then go on to give you examples of where Allah isn't. He will look around and say, hey, Allah is not in my chair either, because I'm sitting on the chair. Right? Doesn't make sense. Allah is not in my pencil, because the point breaks and I have to resharpen it again. Right? Allah is not in this place, and it goes on to tell you all these different places. They will tell you where Allah isn't. Because naturally, they understand that it is against reason to accept that Allah is within these lowly states of His creation. Now, of course, when you're discussing with a person who has gone to school now, he graduated, he did philosophy 101 or whatever, and you're now trying to give this kind of discussion with that person, and you put to the person, hey, what do you think? You believe Allah is in filth? The person will stop for a minute. Ooh. Inside their hearts, they know this is not right. But they don't want to lose the argument. That's what philosophy 101 taught you, right? Don't lose the argument. You can use this logic and that logic, whatever, and get out of any argument. So they say, yes. Though inside their hearts, they don't believe it. Because they don't want to lose the argument. So you can't, as I said, you want to check this natural proof, you got to go to the kids. Because the kids are not about winning or losing the argument. They just tell you what comes to them naturally. Whereas adults, they have another agenda. Right? Now, if we go beyond the natural arguments to what may be called the prayer proof, the proof in prayer that Allah is not within His creation, the very fact that worshipping objects of Allah's creation is forbidden is proof that Allah is not within His creation. Because if we're He in His creation, then what's wrong with worshipping each other, worshipping the idols, everything else? We have to say this is okay. Why not? But Islam, of course, forbids that. Proof can also be found in the principle of the ascension, the Mi'raj, where Prophet Muhammad ﷺ goes up into the heavens, to the highest heaven, where the angels could not go beyond, and Allah communicated with him. Allah was above him, above His throne. This is all among the evidences. And we can find in the Quran a variety of different verses which speak about things going up to Allah, whether it is the angel and the spirit, which ascend to Him in a day whose length is like 50,000 years. تعرج الملائكة والروح إليه في يوم كان مقداره 50,000 سنة. Or Allah talks about good sayings going up to Him. إليه يصعد الكلم الطيب. Or we find Allah describing himself as Al-Qahir, for example, فوق عبادي وهو القاهر فوق عبادي, he is the irresistible above his worshippers. Or Allah uses the attribute Al-Ali, right? Al-Ali, which means the one above which there is nothing, the highest. And Allah describes the believers saying, يَخَافُونَ رَبَّهُمْ مِنْ فَوْقِهِمْ, those who fear their Lord who is above him. But the final evidence, because of course some people may bring some other verses from the Quran and we look at them, where Allah said that he's closer to you than your jugular vein, and say, hey, what does that mean? We say before looking at that, let's go to the Sunnah. We've looked at the Quran, so many verses in the Quran pointing to Allah being above his creation. And we can find in Sahih Muslim. In Sahih Muslim, in volume 1, page 306, as well as in Sahih Bukhari, volume 9, page 386. We can find, this is in Sahih Muslim alone, volume 1, page 271. Volume 1, page 271. A hadith by Muawiyah ibn al-Hakam, in which he narrates that he had a slave girl who was tending his flock of sheep in a particular location called Jawariya. One day he came to check up on his flock and he found that some sheep were missing. So he asked the girl, where are the sheep? She said a wolf came and ran off with them. He got mad, he got upset, so he slapped her in her face, whack, as parents in ignorance do to their children today. People who call themselves Muslims. But he realized when he did this, he had committed a grave error, because Prophet Muhammad ﷺ had forbade the slapping of or hitting of anything in its face. Not even a dog or a donkey were not allowed to hit anything or anybody in its face. And that's why boxing is haram. Boxing is haram, because it's all about knocking a guy out by punching him in his face, right? Anyway, the point is that he realized his wrong, so he went to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and told him what took place. When he did, the Prophet ﷺ became extremely upset. He became, red with anger, and so he asked the Prophet ﷺ, can I free her as penance, atonement for what I've done? The Prophet ﷺ said, okay, bring her. When he brought her, he asked her two questions. The first question he said to her was, Aina Allah? Where is Allah? He could have asked her, do you believe in Allah? But he didn't. He asked her, where is Allah? Why? Because people there believed in Allah. As I mentioned the verse before, if you ask them who created the heavens and earth, they say Allah. But their idea of Allah was confused. They had somehow believing Allah was within the creation, in their idols and all these other kind of things. So he wanted to know, did she have the Islamic clarity? So he asked her, Aina Allah? Where is Allah? And she said, Fis sama, above the heavens. Then he asked her, Waman ana? And who am I? And she said, Anta Rasulullah. You are the messenger of Allah. So he then turned to Muawiyah ibn al-Hakam and he said to him, A'tiqha fa innaha mu'mina. Free her because she is a true believer. So after that, is there any room for anybody to say otherwise? No. This sunnah is clear. Some people say, when you ask them, where is Allah? Say, you shouldn't be asking this question. Hey, Rasulullah asked this question. Are you telling us we shouldn't ask the question? It's a legitimate question asked by Rasulullah. And the correct answer is above the heavens. And we should teach our children that from the time they're able to speak. Whereas Allah, Allah is above the heavens. The child who grows up understanding that can never be brought to worship Allah's creation. But once you bring a child up believing Allah is everywhere, then it's just a matter of time before somebody tells him, hey, yeah, Allah is everywhere. He's in me, He's in you, but He's more in me than you. What does that mean? Worship me. That is Sai Baba. More than 8 million people believing He's God, worshiping Him. And among them are Muslims. I met Muslims in Sri Lanka and in Trinidad who are followers of Sai Baba. Anyway, if we take that, leave that aside, and we address some other verses, like the one where Allah said, وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ, and I am closer to Him than His jugular vein. I say, okay, what does this mean? We say, it has to be understood in context. Just as if I say to you, Allah said in the Quran, وَلَا تَقْرَبُوا الصَّلَاةِ, do not come near prayer. Allah said that in the Quran. Don't come near prayer. Avoid prayer altogether. La taqrabu salah. What do you say to that? They say, no, you have to finish the verse. You know, Allah said, La taqrabu salah wa antum sukara. Don't come near prayer when you are in a state of intoxication. Fawailul lil musallin. Cursed are those who pray. You have to complete it. Alladhina hum an salatihim sahun. Those who are negligent in their prayer. Those are the ones cursed, not everybody. So we say the same thing. Go back to your verse. What does it say before that? وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. Indeed, I have created humans, and I know what his soul whispers, for I am closer to him than his jugular vein. Allah says, He created humans and He knows what the soul whispers. The soul, which is the most intimate part of ourselves, Allah knows whatever that soul whispers, whatever thoughts we have, Allah knows it, because He's closer to us than our jugular veins. So what is He talking about here? His being or His knowledge? His knowledge. As He knows what is in the soul, He knows everything about us because He's closer to us in knowledge than the closest thing we can imagine about ourselves. That is the meaning. And similarly, any of the other verses that you find where Allah describes, for example, Him coming between a human being and his heart, or any of you is two, He is the third. If we're three, He's the fourth, etc. These type of verses, when you go and you read the context, it's all talking about Allah's knowledge. So yes, His knowledge, His power, His mercy, it is everywhere in His creation. But not that He, in His essence, is found or to be found in His creation. This is the distinction that has to be made. We'll stop here, inshallah. Maybe we'll give about 10 minutes for some questions, and we take another break. Are we on schedule? Slightly off, but we'll take a few questions. I have a written question here, first and foremost. How can we do da'wah to people who have been caught up in the Naqshbandi Sufi group? They tell people they are on the Quran and Sunnah. Many Muslims from Washington, D.C. area are going to their meetings. Well, we need to educate them to the realities of Tawheed. If they have understood the realities, then they cannot be caught. But if they haven't understood, then the cheap tickets which Snake Nazim is teaching, that will take you to paradise, the cheap way, this will always be popular because human beings are bent toward this. If you have a shortcut, we're always looking for shortcuts. So somebody's offering you a shortcut here. All you have to do is to be one of my followers. As Snake Nazim tells his followers, if you are one of his true followers, when the time of death comes, the angel of death will not take your soul to hand it over to the angels of the next life. He said, I will be there to take your soul and to hand it over to the angels of the next life. And when the angels Munkar and Nakir come to ask you the questions in the grave, who is your Lord, what was your religion, who is the prophet that was sent to you, he says, I will be there to whisper you the answers to you. So what is he telling you? You're guaranteed paradise. You become one of his followers, true followers, and you're guaranteed paradise. And of course, people like this. So you find big figures. The ruler of Brunei, one of his followers, built a 25 million pound center for him in England. He's got many followers. It's very attractive, And many who have accepted Islam in Europe, in Germany, and in England, they have joined his way. Because, as I said, this is the nature of human beings. Just as in the past, when the Roman Catholic Pope used to prepare what were called the papal indulgences, which was a certificate stating the bearer of this certificate has a place in paradise. You pay some money, he puts your name on the certificate, puts his stamp, and you walk away. Right? This was done for hundreds of years. This is one of the things which Martin Luther protested against. Tickets to paradise. People are bent towards this. So by explaining, letting them understand the realities, they claim that Snake Nazim is able to be in more than 7 locations in the world at the same time. So he can be sitting with you here in your dhikr circle, and he's also in Sri Lanka, he's also in Mecca making tawaf, and his followers will confirm, he's here, he's there, he's everywhere. So you let people understand that these type of beliefs, by understanding the foundation principles of Tawheed, they understand that this is some form of deviation. Inshallah, they can extract themselves from this. And the unfortunate thing is that these types of groups that promote this idea, where you follow your sheikh blindly, you don't question, because as Musa was not able to understand the workings of Khidr, because he had special understanding, as they say, he was able to see with the spiritual eye. This is one of the statements they like to say, whereas Musa was only looking through the material eyes, right? They say in the same way, the sheikh, he has that connection. Meaning that if you see the sheikh go down to the local liquor store and he buys himself a bottle of Johnny Walker, he comes back, he pours a glass and he drinks it, don't think that he's drinking alcohol. It may appear that way to you, but no. There is another explanation, a deeper explanation, and they will give it for you. So what that does is it opens up corruption among their followers. So these individuals, himself and his khalifas, they do all kinds of stuff. And the people silently bear these things, believing that there is a deeper explanation. So you'll find the khalifas, like one sister told me from Sri Lanka, how she had, gone into this dhikr situation with their khalifa there. You have, in America, the khalifa is, what's his name, Kabbani, right? In Sri Lanka, he's left a khalifa, he's got khalifas in different locations. And his khalifa there in Sri Lanka, they go through this thing where they go in the room, they turn out the lights, and they're remembering Allah in this darkness, and then they turn the lights back on and they find, jewels and stuff like that in their laps and stuff, where this stuff comes from. Anyway, what she was saying that, she had gone to him, she had some problems, and he was telling her, okay, you make dhikr and so and so. The next thing she knows, he's fondling her. And she's shocked what to do, And he's carrying on, and she's just stuck in the situation. She can't say anything. She came out of it, disgusted, what to say. And she left the group, ashamed, etc. But basically, she's not the only one. Many of the people have been affected in this way, but they are silent. They don't do anything. They can't say, because you cannot judge these things as they appear. So in the past, you have many examples of this kind of corruption which took place. You had people like Jimmy Jones, right, who took 900 of his followers down to Guyana and committed suicide together. If you read about what Jimmy Jones was doing to his people, some incredible stuff. You wonder, how could people tolerate this? Well, Jimmy Jones had the people believing that he was God. He was God. So everything that he did, they found other explanations for it. Same thing with Sai Baba. You have cases against Sai Baba now where Americans who were among his followers and sent their children to study with him, the males, he molested them seriously, because he claims to be celibate, but in fact he is involved in a number of homosexual practices. But again, the followers, they don't want to accept this. They want to blank it out. No, Sayyid Baba, you don't understand. No, it's not what you see, not what it seems. They are in the state of denial because they've accepted the idea that this man is God. So these are among the dangers that exist there. As we said, the idea of giving da'wah to the people of this region or of this belief, where people are followers of Sheikh Nazim and others, is to try to give them the foundational beliefs concerning Aqidah. Those who are clear of these beliefs will not fall into this trap. Those who are not are exposed. And I should mention, without getting into a name-calling situation, that Hamza Yusuf, who's very popular today, on the lecture circuit, etc., he is a caller to this way. He is a caller. He's he's amongst the advanced troops. He's out there calling people to this. Now, he does it subtly. Among the subtle ways that he does is, he says, everybody has to follow a madhab. And you must get your knowledge from a sheikh, who got it from a sheikh, who got it from a sheikh, who got it from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is his insistence, that you must have a silsila, a chain of sheikhs which go right back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What you look is, historically, those who made this claim are the same Sufis. For their secret knowledge that they have, we ask them, where did the secret knowledge come from? They say, well, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was in the cave during the Hijrah, he hid in the cave from the Quraysh who were hunting him, and he was alone with Abu Bakr. There he revealed to Abu Bakr certain secret knowledge. And Abu Bakr told this one, who told that one, who told the other one, who told the other one, who told the other one, who told my sheikh. Right? The secret knowledge. You want to learn the secret knowledge, then you have to make bay'ah. You make your oath of allegiance to the sheikh. You become a murid, and you will become privileged to this secret knowledge. Right? This is the claim. And of course, when you look at these chains, this chain of Sheikh Nazim, you find in the middle of the chain, towards the top, Khidr. Yeah, he claims that Khidr was there as one of the narrators of the chain. Of course, this is nonsense, because they have this belief that Khidr is like Melchizedek, he's still alive. Yeah, this is one of their claims, that Khidr is still alive and amongst us. Yeah. Of course, according to the scholars of hadith, etc., such a chain is inauthentic. It's not authentic at all. And they've fabricated it, in fact. And the Prophet ﷺ said, "Taraktukum ala mahajjatin bayda." I've left you on a clear white plain. Layluha kanahariha. whose night is like its day. لا يزيغ عنها إلا هالك. And anyone who deviates from it is destroyed. The religion is clear. No night and day, it's all one. Now, of course, scholars in looking at verses may be able to give you deeper understandings than you understood. But once you understand the methodology of how they got that deeper understanding, then you can do it also. It's not hidden knowledge. This is different. Hidden knowledge is like the claim of the Shiites, right? Who, when they couldn't find any mention of Allah, of Ali, or Fatima, or Hassan and Hussein, who are the key, they couldn't find it anywhere in the Quran. To promote their system of beliefs, what did they say? You know, when Allah said in the Quran, Maraj al-Bahrayni yaltaqiyan, in Surah Ar-Rahman, when the two seas come together, they meet. They said, what are the two seas? We say, we know, Allah mentions us in the Quran, the sea, the fresh water, and the salt waters. We know the two seas. They said, no. These are not the two seas. The two seas are Ali and Fatima. And you know, after that, Allah says, Minhum al-lu'lu wal-marjan. What comes from it are the pearl and the coral. We all know the pearl and the coral. They say, no, it's not the pearl and the coral you think. It's Hassan and Hussein. Of course, this is hidden knowledge. Because no matter what principle you teach, you cannot deduce this. This is just something coming out of the blue. Because just as they claim that, we could say the two seas are Adam and Eve. And the pearl and the coral as Cain and Abel. Why not? You could just as well say that. So this is what, when we talk about secret knowledge, hidden knowledge, this is how it comes. It is knowledge which you cannot deduce by principles. It's knowledge which only comes from special sources. Right? So this is not Islam. Islam is clear. It is open. It is understandable. It is, because Allah revealed it for the guidance of humankind, it is clear. Its clarity is without doubt. And we have no hidden knowledge. Okay, I think actually our time is up. I know there's some other questions just came up. We need to spend a little more time on them. Questions about Warithuddin and photography being shirk, etc. We can look at those future. I got a note which said, I think this is primary for you all here, lunch is waiting outside. So I think we better move on that one, right? Subhanakallahumma. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah, and as such we should praise Him, seek His help, seek refuge in Him from the evil which is within ourselves and the evil which results from our deeds. For whomsoever Allah has guided, none can misguide, and whomsoever Allah has allowed to go astray, none can guide. And I bear witness that there is no God worthy of worship but Allah, and that Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the last messenger of Allah. The top topic which we'll be looking at now, after completing a look at one of the critical attributes of Allah, which relates to Allah's transcendency or being above His creation, we're now going to look at another grouping of Allah's attributes, and this is in relationship to the question regarding the purpose of creation. That this question, why did Allah create me? What is the reason for my existence? why am I here? These kind of questions which people face at different points in their lifetime. They ask themselves these questions and they try to find answers, or they put these ideas aside and just carry on with life, feeling that there really are no answers to these questions. In Islam, we do have an answer, and we need to have a look at those answers and realize that in the answers to these questions lies the attributes of Allah in their manifestation. Now, the question, why did Allah create human beings? Why are human beings created? If we look into Christianity and Hinduism, the two major scriptures or religions out there, what we find is a lack of clarity. You will not find clear answers to these questions. We can find statements of philosophers of the past, whether it's Plato or Aristotle and others. They've tackled these questions and tried to find answers for them. But what you find in reality is a variety of different answers. And even amongst Christians, you'll find a variety of different answers. And amongst Hindus, you'll find a variety of different answers, depending on the path of Hinduism one is following, etc. And how does one know really which is the correct answer? You will not find in the scripture clarity. You will find interpretations. Answers are drawn out of interpretations and personal opinions. Whereas when we go into the Islamic texts, you find the kind of clarity which is missing in these other quote-unquote religions. Where Islam begins to look at the concept of why did Allah create human beings, it begins before addressing the issue of the creation of humans by looking first at the reason for Allah's creation. Why did Allah create? Period. Because the creation of human beings is not the greatest aspect of creation, though human beings tend to think of themselves as being the pinnacle of creation. We are the greatest of Allah's creation. In fact, the Quran states otherwise. We have a verse in the Quran, in the 40th chapter, which is Surah Al-Ghafir, verse 57, in which Allah said, لَخَلْقُ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ خَلْقِ النَّاسِ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Indeed, the creation of the heavens and the earth is greater than the creation of humankind, but most of humankind do not realize it. This is the reality. Allah brings human beings down to size, brings them down from that state of arrogance that they tend to hold, that we are the greatest things out there. No, Allah informs us that the creations of the heavens and the earth is far more complex. It's far more great than the creation of human beings. Therefore, the question we need to address first and foremost is, why did Allah create? Period. Now, the answer to this question lies in the attributes of Allah. First and foremost is the attribute of being the creator. That creation is the natural consequence of being the creator. It is the manifestation of the attribute of being the creator. And if we look in the context, if you look in the context of human beings, and of course this similitude, Allah is beyond this, but at least on a human level, if we consider a person who tells you, I am a painter, and you ask that person, well, where are your paintings? Can I see some of your paintings? And he says, well, I don't have any. No paintings, but I am a painter. And we ask somebody else, and they say, well, here are my paintings. obviously we will consider the one who has paintings, this is the painter. Whereas the other one, he's of an inferior quality. Does he really paint? Is it really true that he's a painter? You know, the painting is the manifestation of that quality, right? And it makes that individual greater. I mean, we can look at it in that perspective relative to human beings. Of course, relative to Allah, whether he paints or he doesn't paint, whether he creates or he doesn't create, it doesn't make him lesser or greater. But I'm just saying that ultimately, as the painter paints, the creator creates. Creation is a manifestation of Allah's attribute of being the creator. And what we find in this creation is that a variety of Allah's attributes become manifest. First and foremost, it is the one of being the creator, but beyond that, the other attributes of mercy, of grace, of being the all-forgiving, of being the just, the all-knowing, all of these things become manifest in Allah's creation. Now, the well-known Sufi fabricated hadith, which states that Allah was a hidden treasure and He wanted to be found, so He created human beings. As I said, it is a well-known fabricated tradition, and it is the foundation of this, what they call Gnostic approach to religion, where it is about knowing Allah, ma'rifah.